Hi, this is Tim Stapleton at GT Automotive. Just wanted to talk a moment about brake jobs. I know there's a lot of different brake jobs all over the valley, and everywhere you go, there's somebody's got a different price and a special and different things like that. And it's like everything else, you get what you pay for kind of a deal, and there's different qualities and different ways of doing things. Now this car here, the brake pads are still in pretty good shape, but you can see the surface of the rotor here is it's kind of rusted and it's pitted. It's got a lot of lines in it and that. So we always machine the rotors so they come out looking like this. And you can see that's got a nice finish on it. It's got a non-directional crosshatch, which will keep the brakes from squeaking when you put the new brakes on. If you were to put new brakes on with the rotor like the old rotor there, and this isn't the exact same application, but it's just to kind of show you the difference, but they would likely squeak. Another factor is the type of brake pad, and certainly don't want to say anything bad about a company or anything like that, but there are different qualities of brake pads and there's different prices of brake pads. These tend to be more expensive. These have a sensor built into them, and when the pad wears out, the sensor wears out with it, so you have to get the sensor with the pad. This pad right here, which is a very high quality pad, is made with a ceramic material, and it has little pieces of ceramic in it, which allows it to hold up to heat much better so the brakes don't fade when they get hot, especially going up and down the canyons that we have and things like that. Now these aren't bad brakes, but they're much less expensive, and they're just a semi-metallic pad. They're not an asbestos, and you can see the difference in the material and in the coloring in that. Although to look at them, for someone just to look, they both have the sensors and all that, but you're going to get much better service out of this. The brakes won't fade, they shouldn't squeak, especially if you do the surfacing on the rotors or replacement when the rotors get thin. And another thing we do is we use a synthetic caliper grease. The brakes get very, very hot. That's what they do. They turn kinetic energy going down the road into heat, and they dissipate the heat, and that gets rid of that energy. So it's very important that anything that slides or pivots or anything else on the brakes, that it gets lubricated by something that's going to hold up to the heat and not just run off. What you want to look for when they're doing them is anything that pivots or slides, anything that moves, needs to be lubricated with that grease. That way, when we take these brakes apart, like where this rubber boot is, that's packed full of grease, or it should be. And so when we do them, we would put grease in there again, make sure everything's free, so this caliper can slide back and forth the way it should, unimpeded. If you notice, the caliper pistons are on one side, and yet it has two pads. And the way that works is when you step on the brake and these pistons move out, this whole caliper assembly has to slide back and forth just a little bit, and that sliding is what applies both sides. So if it seizes up, it's going to wear out one of the brake pads much faster than it will wear out the other one, and you won't get the service out of it that you should. So it's important that everything be cleaned. It's important that they be resurfaced on the rotors, that the caliper grease, real high temperature grease be used, and a real good quality pad. That way you'll get the service out of it that you should. And that's why some brake jobs cost more than others. Shouldn't be left out when you do a brake job. We always take a look at the brake fluid and make sure that it doesn't have too much water content in it, and that it looks clean so that it doesn't foul up your brake system. And so all of these factor into the quality of a brake job. And of course you want good brakes, because that's the one thing that will hurt you. You step on the brake pedal, you want it to stop. And how fast it stops and how long it does it and how quietly it does it is a factor of how the brake job is